Writers use verbs in different moods to make their writing more engaging. Let's practice using verbs in different moods. Make sure you have your Learn Zillion practice sheet in front of you because you'll need it throughout this lesson. Let's review. Verbs are said to have moods, which means that they are used for different reasons and in different ways. In English, we have 5 verb moods: indicative, imperative, interrogative, conditional, and subjunctive. In this lesson, we're going to focus on the first 3. The indicative mood expresses fact or reality. This sentence, "The woman is driving the car," uses the indicative mood because we're just stating a reality. This is the most common verb mood. Verbs can also be in the imperative mood. These verbs give a command. Drive the car is imperative. A common marker or clue for imperative verbs is that the subject is usually not stated. Most imperative verbs use the understood you as a subject. That is, the subject is you, I just don't actually say it aloud. If someone tells you to drive the car, you just understand that they're talking to you. They don't have to say it. We also have the interrogative mood, which asks a question, like in this example. Will you drive the car? A common marker for the interrogative mood is that the subject and verb are often switched around, with the verb either coming before the subject or the subject coming in between the verbs, like in our example. So why do we need to learn about verb moods? Well, one reason that it's helpful to know about verb moods is that using verbs in different moods can add variety and interest to our writing. It's much more interesting to read a text that uses a variety of different verb moods than a text that uses only the indicative mood, which is the most common. So let's do a quick practice. Match the sentences on the left to the correct verb moods that each uses on the right. Press pause while you work and play when you finish. You should have found that this first sentence is in the interrogative mood because it asks a question. Notice that the subject comes in between the helping and action verb, which is a common marker of the interrogative mood. Sentence B is in the imperative mood. Here, our speaker is giving a command. Notice that the sentence has no stated subjects. It uses the understood you. Finally, sentence C is in the indicative mood. It's simply stating a fact. Here's a draft of a persuasive paragraph that I've been working on. As you read, see if you can tell what moods my verbs are in. Press pause to read and press play when you're ready to move on. You might have noticed that all of my verbs in this draft are in the indicative mood. Now, this isn't necessarily incorrect, but my writing just isn't as interesting as it could be. I want to persuade my reader of something here, so I want him or her to find my writing as interesting as possible. Let's add some variety into this paragraph by adding verbs in different moods. And let's start by looking at my first few sentences here. So how can I vary these sentences so that they're more interesting to my reader? I noticed a list here after my first sentence. I'm listing a couple of reasons that vending machines should not be in schools. So maybe I could introduce this list with a sentence before it. I could do this with verbs in the indicative, imperative, or interrogative mood. Take a look at these example sentences and match the sentences on the left with the correct verb mood on the right. Pause the video while you work and press play when you're ready to continue. You should have found that sentence A uses the indicative mood because it's simply stating a fact. Sentence B uses the interrogative mood because it's asking a question, and sentence C uses the imperative mood because it's giving a command. Let's add sentence B to our text to introduce this list. The beginning of this paragraph now has a bit more variety in its verbs to help garner our reader's interest. Let's continue this process with the next few sentences. This time, let's choose a sentence that we've already written and shift the verbs into a different mood. So let's ask ourselves again, how can I add variety to my writing? Which sentence could I shift into a different mood? Now, there's really no wrong answer to these questions. It's just a matter of what you think is going to sound the best and make the most sense. I'm going to make a change to the last sentence here. This sentence is currently in the indicative mood like the others. But let's change the verbs here into the interrogative mood. Practice writing this sentence in the interrogative mood. Remember, verbs in this mood ask a question. You may need to add extra words or change words around so that the sentence still makes sense. Press pause while you work and press play to continue. Now, there are many ways you could have rewritten this sentence. I chose to rewrite mine like this. Do you want to ensure that our students are staying healthy, saving money, and paying attention in class? Okay, we have one sentence left. Try rewriting the sentence twice, using both the imperative and interrogative moods. Don't be afraid to change other words in the sentence if you need to in order to make sure it still makes sense. When you finish writing them in these two different moods, then put a check mark next to the sentence that you would choose to use in your draft and explain why you made that choice. Pause the video to work and press play when you finish. Okay, since this is persuasive writing and I'm trying to convince my reader to take a specific action, I decided to write this sentence using the imperative mood. Your imperative sentence might not sound exactly like mine, and that's okay. So here's what I wrote. Take my advice and remove vending machines from schools in our district. Notice how I've begun each clause here with the verb, and I've used the understood you as my subject. The reason I chose to use the imperative mood is that, first of all, we've already added two sentences in the interrogative mood, and I want to add even more variety to my writing. The other reason is that ending a persuasive piece with a command can be a powerful way to get your message across. I'm telling my reader in a very straightforward way that they should do what I'm persuading them to do. And that's it. Take a look at the revised paragraph. Notice how I've now used verbs in the indicative, imperative, and interrogative mood to make this paragraph more interesting and persuasive. Press pause and read the revised draft, then press play. Now it's your turn. Read this draft and revise it using what you've learned in this lesson. Press pause to work and press play to continue. Now edit your own writing by including sentences containing verbs in the interrogative and imperative moods. Now you know that writers use verbs in different moods to make their writing more engaging. This will make your writing much more interesting.